Sorry, guys, I had to make sure I knew how to count because the Mets now have 5 straight victories here, and it's all been at this Mets homestand for the most part. How's it going, all you amazing Mets fans? It's Wardy here, and we're back at it live with another immediate post-game reaction and breakdown as the Metsies take down the Miami Marlins as they went fishing this time there in Flushing, Queens by a final score of 2-0. In tonight's show, we're going to break down to a T everything that transpired in this ball game, inning by innings 1 through 9 all the way through. We just finished an entire game-long watch party that we did live on YouTube as well as the Playback app. If you guys would like to chime in for future segments like that, check out playback.tv/WardyNYM. Link down below. That way you guys can join in on all the fun next time we do it sometime next week. But in this one, we're going to break down the brilliance, which was Kodai Senga, another start against Miami, another rock-solid start against Miami. Loved his fastball usage in this one in comparison to last start. Didn't have the ghost fork working as much as his true put-out pitch, but it did work towards the end. We're going to get into what worked so well for Kodai Senga and this Mets pitching staff, which still currently leads Major League Baseball with a team-best 1.72 ERA. They started the day at 1.91. They're down to 1.72, folks, and you absolutely love to see it. Offensively, Francisco Lindor doing big things tonight. Juan Soto, the one and only, the polar bear, and Tyrone Taylor, TT as we love to call him, all had some key components in tonight's ball game, folks. So let's break down this ball game. Let's get into all these reactions. Yoshima, thank you so much for the $2 holla as your first chime in. Shout out to all my members here, folks, but I want to see those W's spammed in the live show right here, right now. If you're watching this on replay, spam W's in the comments down below. And if you're one of our 150 plus members here on the platform, utilize the W emoji that I have preset for you guys, along with all the other fun Mets emojis that you guys can sign up for if you become a member on the platform by checking it out in the description of the live show right here, right now. But guys, let me see the W spam in the chat. I want to see it, everybody. Again, Yoshima, thank you so much for the $2 haul. We appreciate that. Steve Law, my great member in here. How you doing? Brian, great member. Alberto, great member. JR, great member. Steve, how you doing? Great member. Dave Kaplitz, great member. A great friend in here. Shrek's great member. Leo, great member. Kish, great member. Oh my goodness. D-Mac, great member. Charlie Rock, great member. Eric Douglas, great member. Alberto Tito Soto, PB9, great members over there. Everybody, come one, come all. Darren Rivera, how you doing up in the list? Rebecca, how you doing? Chad O'Neill, Brian Torres, all these amazing members, guys. You are absolutely masterful, guys. And let's let it rip as we always do in a big post-game segment. After a big win like this, guys, we got to do what we have been doing. And what have we been doing? We've been letting it rip with the one, the only, the official WardyNYM post-game jingle. Let's go! Shout out to my guys Greg and Jordan with the official WardyNYM post-game show jingle in this. I was going to say BI, you know what? I don't know why I was going to be so blunt like that. Post-game jingle in the building. That's the better word to say. Now let's get back in this one and let's break down this ball game, everybody. Hype me up. What a ball game this was. It was so much fun to watch. And yes, there wasn't a lot of offensive output in a cold, frigid night at Citi Field. And unfortunately, because it's going to be a cold, frigid night at Citi Field tomorrow, the Mets changed the game start to a 4:10 game time, which means your guy Wardy will sadly not be attending tomorrow night's game. I'd like to apologize in advance to anyone that was looking forward to chopping it up with me at tomorrow's game, but the good news is that we are in fact going to still be there for Wednesday's day game there, so I cannot wait to interact with so many amazing Mets fans at Citi Field. It just pushed today, sadly, because I got absolutely screwed when I found out the news that they changed the scheduling of it, and usually it wouldn't be a bother, but when I live 2.5 hours away and have to work around my schedule just to attend these things, a last minute change usually is not going to work in my favor too much. So regardless, we'll be there Wednesday. To anyone attending tomorrow's game, I hope you have an absolute blast. We'll be covering either here on the platform or in a different setting, depending on what tomorrow entails, as I'm still figuring it out at this point in time. But Pat W with the $5 holla. Thank you so much. Pat says in the chat, put in the books, pitching locked in. Vientos starting to have some good at-bats. Top 4 in the lineup carry the Mets. Bottom 4 somewhat rocky. Yep, we're going to get into it all. We're going to talk about the positives on Vientos from this matchup. We're going to talk about the potential negatives offensively, what was standing out, if at all, which was headlined, sadly, by WardyNYM, and endless runner and scoring position opportunities in this matchup, and simply could not get to be there when the Mets needed him most. He was not getting those clutch hits. So let's expand on all this right here, right now, everybody, and get into our key player performances on the pitching end and certainly on the offensive end. Because, folks, the game starts out, we see there in the first. Edwards would get on with a single there, the speedy man for Miami. They're a young, speedy, very hungry lineup. Stowers gets on with a 4-pitch walk. So right away, Kodai Senga isn't looking his best. Me and Giraffe Neck Mark, as we started the Playback Watch Party live show together, we were both reacting like, yeah, not ideal, but this is kind of how Kodai's MO has been for the most part. D-Mac, thank you so much for the $5 holla. Let's see this. Need some more Tyrone Taylor. I 100% agree. TT looked good today, and I love the fact, I can't get over the fact that Tyrone Taylor ends up driving in his fellow center fielder buddy on Jose Siri today. I thought that was pretty cool and how that was all set up. Wonder if the time change might impact you, Rory. Glad you'll be there Wednesday. Thank you, PB9. I appreciate that. But, guys, as we saw Edwards get on with a leadoff single there from Miami, then Stowers with the walk. Lopez then finds himself in a a fielder's choice, rather. They get the force out. He's on at first, though. And then Lopez is out at second base while trying to steal. Thankfully, Lopez pulled what we saw Tyrone Taylor unfortunately do a couple innings later in this ball game, and that slide into second base, but unfortunately slide right over the bag. Again, a cold, wet, frigid night at Citi Field. Not overly shocked to see that happen. After we would see the slide fail, Mervis gets on with a walk, and then Wagaman would ground out to end the top of the first. Kodai Senga escapes the early jam unscathed. As we get to the bottom of the first, Francisco Lindor does a thing, baby. Make that 4 consecutive games, all games to kickstart this homestand for Lindor, where he gets on base right away with either a leadoff hit of a single or a double, and in today's fashion, he got on with a little bit of a bloop opposite field single. He had 3 different singles today, and it was interesting how they were all different in their very own unique way. Lindor gets on right away with the leadoff hit. Soto strikes out on 90 heat up and away, and when I say heat, I'm saying that loosely. He just didn't read him well, but Soto would make up for it later on this ball game. Alonso gets on with a single for his first of multiple hits today. Nemo, unfortunately, would then fly out there that we would see after. Vientos gets on with a walk to load the bases with 2 outs there for Jesse Winker, and Jesse right away sadly has himself an infield pop out, which ends the inning. So through 1, after Miami and the Mets both had some guys on base, they were not able to prevail, and we headed to the second tied 0-0. In the second, we would see Konine strike out on a fastball that was nice and dotted by Mr. Kodai Senga. Myers then strikes out on a fastball as well. Back-to-back punchies there on the fastball. K's dotted corners there for the most part by Kodai Senga, and he works himself a nice 1-2-3 second inning. In the bottom of the second, Tyrone Taylor would get on with an opposite field single after what was a really good quality at bat, but as we just talked about a second ago, we saw Taylor slide past second base after trying to steal it, and that'll do her from there. Senga then strikes out not long after to end the inning. In the third, Nick Fortes, who I've never been a fan of, he's just a schmuck and has some big hits every now and then against our Mets. We see Fortes first pitch fly out, Edwards then with a single, Stowers with a strikeout on the ghost fork, which was nasty by Kodai, one of the best ghost forks he had working tonight. Edwards then steals second base, but nothing else happens from there. Then as we get to the bottom of the third, everybody, another jam that's worked out of by Kodai Senga. Lindor then with a bunt opposite field single, heading them where they ain't. He sees that he has enough of a gap down the third baseline with how deep their third baseman and Paulie was playing, and he takes full advantage of that. Lindor 2 for 2 at this point in the ball game, and Juan Soto promptly drives Lindor in from that bunt single to then an opposite field RBI double off the wall. That felt like a ball that would have flied out if it wasn't dying like everything else was, and a cold, frigid night at Citi Field. Soto gets into second safely, and the Mets have themselves that early 1-0 lead. Alonso with a line out, and Nemo with an infield pop out, and Vientos is unfortunately robbed of an extra base hit that we saw in left field. A tremendous grab there by the corner outfielder for Miami, and that does it there for the inning. As we head to the fourth, we would see Matt Mervis get on with a single, the second time he's on base in this game against the Mets. Alonso then makes a fantastic catch in foul territory that you guys see beside me. So talk about cue timing, baby. And that was absolutely huge to see. Makes a great catch. Kodai with the single. Myers then with a big double play that the Mets are turned. And who was in the thick of it this entire game, everybody? On the defensive end, it was Luis Angel Acuna. Acuna from the start in this ball game was a defensive dynamo and gained the start over Brett Baty. Even in the righty-righty matchup, didn't waver away from why Carlos Mendoza wanted to put him in there, because one, Brett hasn't done anything so far this season, and two, Acuna is just tremendous defensively, and he showcased that big time in this 2-0 key victory for the Mets' 5th straight victory on the season. As we continue to go on from there, after we would see Myers' double play would end it, Winker would a fly out to begin the bottom of the fourth, Taylor would a pop out, and then Acuna gets on himself with a 2-out walk, and then the pitching change happens. Senga then pops up shortly after, and we would see Lopez make a great catch, and that'll do her for the inning. Then as we get to the top of the fifth, everybody, the Mets are still up 1-0. Paulie then rips himself a single, and thank you guys kindly for all the nice words. Smash that like and subscribe button as your first chime in. Let me know all your initial reactions to the Mets' big 2-0 win, their 5th straight win of the season, as we break it down every single night here, day, evening, whenever the Mets conclude a game on the WardyNYM platform. We're going to cover every single game this year, just like we covered every single game last year, just like how we covered every single game the year before. We're locked in here for the #1 post-game show on YouTube, covering our Metsies for each and every one of you. As we get back into this, as we see there, everybody, in the 5th, Paulie with a single. A great double play turn yet again by Luis Angel Acuna and Lindor to then Alonso, and that about does it. Senga with a big strikeout to end the inning on the Ghost Fork, as that would be Senga's final big K of the day. Kodai Senga, folks, is done after 5 innings of work, just like the first time he played this Miami Marlins team, and in similarity, just like last time, Kodai Senga pitched exactly 77 pitches in his first start, just like he did here again against Miami. The difference is that the last time Senga played these Miami Marlins, he gave up a run or two. This time, not so much. 5 innings of 77 pitch ball, 5 hits, 2 walks, 0 earned runs, and 4 strikeouts for Mr. Kodai Senga. And when we go on to expand further as to what was working so well for Kodai today, in his 5-pitch mix that he utilized well, 34% was the four-seam fastball, topped out at 96 and sat 94. We saw the forkball, his Ghost Fork, utilized second most in the arsenal at 31% and had a 39% whiff rate against left-handed batters. That's really impressive. Topped out at roughly 90 and was sitting at 82. The cutter that we saw at 25% of the arsenal, in which had a 48% whiff rate against right-handers in this matchup, topped out at 92.5 and sat right around 89 to 90. The sweeper that he threw just 7 times, topped out 82.5 and sat right around 80. And the curveball that he threw just once was right around 75 miles per hour, which was 5.5 miles per hour higher than his one curveball he threw for the most part or so in his previous outing. Kodai Senga, everybody, absolutely nails. Now the Mets are having a 1,000% winning percentage still under the Rizzler era. If you know, you know. So that's electric to hear. And Kodai Senga helps lead the way for this Mets pitching staff that now has a total 1.72 team best ERA across Major League Baseball, and the bullpen that entered today's game with a sub 1.3 ERA just did even more damage. And I'm curious to know the exact stat there. We might pull up before the end of the show here, but absolutely fantastic work that we saw from not only Kodai Senga, but as we'll get into shortly, and yes, Danny Young, Jose Budo, and Ryan Stanek all holding the fort down in this key 2-0 victory. Everybody watching live on a replay, I would love to see from you guys in the chat and the comments down below, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you grade Kodai Senga's outing? Because I got to give Kodai Senga a very solid 7 out of 10. It's usually very hard for me to go all the way to 7 for a guy that didn't get me beyond 5 innings, and I know I was very stubborn with that last season in my grades for these pitching performances, but Senga didn't even go 80 pitches. He allowed just 5 hits, struck out 4, and had himself no earned runs, and worked some Houdini magic not only out of his jams, but also taking advantage of a strong defense behind him and working those key double plays, as you guys see in the highlights right there. So by all accounts, a strong second start of the year for Kodai Senga. I liked his fastball usage a lot more, and he threw it quite a bit, so it was important to see him dotting those corners versus leaving shit over all the heart of the plate like he found himself doing a decent amount in the first inning or two against Miami over this past week. Going 7 out of 10 for Kodai. Kodai. I see a lot of you guys find yourself in similar category here in the chat. So thank you guys kindly for that. Stern School of Pitching, for all of yous that was bitching, year 2, sit down and learn. 1000% White Mike. I couldn't have said it better. Great wordplay there. Shout out Hyper in the chat as well. We appreciate you. Chad O'Neill, great member here. Brian Torres, great member. Eric Douglas, D-Mac, Dave, 1200, Kevin Flores, Don Rawl, D-Mac, everybody, Cherry World. Thank you guys. Polo Trav, you guys are absolutely awesome. Let's get into continue to break down this key 2-0 victory for the Mets, because as we would go on from there, everybody, 5 strong innings of work for Kodai Senga, which then leads to Francisco Lindor in the bottom of that same inning, this time the bottom of the 5th, to have himself a 3-for-3 day. Lindor rips himself a single, his first true hit of the day, after an opposite field bloop single and an opposite field bunt single. Now he actually rips one. Soto then gets on with a walk, and sadly Alonso has a double play ball. Alonso, for the first time what feels like all year, I saw him chase a slider in this at-bat, just out of the zone, and then he chased a 95-mile-per-hour fastball down and away, and that he completely pulled on. Easy double play, ground out, and the Mets not get anything going from there. Eric Douglas with the $5 haul. Thank you kindly for that, Eric. With Vlad off the table, which free agent would you like to see the Mets go for now this offseason? How much do you think Cohen would give Tucker? You know, it's a great question. We'll talk more about Tucker leading into the offseason, obviously. I think we're a ways away before we really get there. But Tucker's a sexy, appealing fit for the Mets, but Tucker only makes sense if the Mets move Brandon Nimmo back to center and keep Soto in right and then have Tucker in left. And I'm not exactly sure they're going to be comfortable doing that. But yeah, Kyle Tucker's a tremendous get, and regardless on how serious or lack thereof on the Mets' pursuit of him, I fully expect them to have a level of connection when it comes to Kyle Tucker come the offseason, as will be the case with many other players, especially guys on the pitching staff too, as they'll be balancing who they want to bring back versus guys that are going to blossom in-house versus guys that they may want to seek in the free agent or trade market. Yeah, you absolutely said it, PB9. I'm glad you said that. We saw Francisco Mr. Smile Lindor, thanks to his key 3-hit game, also now has himself 1,500 career hits for Mr. Smile. You'll love to see it, everybody. And expand just briefly more here on Francisco Lindor for a second. Take a look at the stat line tonight, folks. 3 for 4 with a run scored. Has a 242 average and a 611 OPS. But just to share some context, everybody, Francisco Lindor's batting average this time a year ago was nowhere close to the Mendoza line. I'm pretty sure Buddy was just batting over 100 at this point in time. I'm actually going to look up on my phone right now, live in real time, and see if I can find this answer for you, because there's no chance that Lindor was at all close to even a 600 OPS on April 7th. I choose not to believe it. Francisco Lindor stats on April 7th, 2024. Oh, wow. So this time last year, funny enough, Lindor actually had a good game. He went 2 for 5 with a home run and 2 runs scored, and that was against the Cincinnati Reds. And it doesn't give me the average or the OPS, so I don't know where he stood there, but I do know that he did have a home run a year ago today. So I digress. Regardless, you guys get the point that I'm trying to make. Lindor had a very slow start to the year last year. Buddy completely forgot how to hit from the left side, and now he's looking as comfortable as ever, and he's taking the right plate approach. And I love the fact that Lindor is, again, working this way up the way that he feels he needs to, especially in a scenario where, say, the power isn't necessarily going to be there right away. He's saying, okay, let me just go out there, poke the baseball in play, and try to make things happen. And this was a fantastic 3 for 4 day, a very savvy hit there with that opposite field bunt single, especially that led to that run scored for the 1 of 2 runs the Mets scored in this matchup. Never complaining about that. So shout out to Mr. Smile. A great day for him. Certainly an offensive standout, to say the least, for this Mets team, because we saw Lindor do his thing big time. And Lindor wasn't the only guy that was giving us something to be pretty happy about on the offensive end. We saw Tyrone Taylor and Pete Alonso have their fair share as well, that we're going to get into in a second. But we also, of course, have to get into our latest spotlight, Mr. Juan Soto, because this was a very rock-solid Juan Soto game. And Juan Soto looked not only great in this matchup, but Soto's looking more and more like the Juan Soto that we're going to expect this season, because we know he's getting Barry Bonds treatment. That isn't changing anytime soon. But how does he take advantage of some key situations, especially when he has runners on? And after striking out fastball away, you could tell that that bothered him, and he was able to hone in and really lock in greatly in his at-bats thereafter. Juan Soto goes 2 for 3 on the day with at least 1 walk, if not 2, a double, an RBI, a 286 average, and a 905 OPS now on on the season for Juan Soto. I've been asking you guys over the past couple days, and I'll say it again. I would love to hear how you guys feel about Juan Soto so far this season. Where do you have him personally ranked right now on a scale of 1 to 10 with his performance? And how much better do you expect Soto to get throughout the course of the 162? Again, it's kind of crazy when I see Soto go opposite field like that, is every single time he goes oppo and the way that his follow through is, it makes me believe that's going to be easy pop out. But he just has so much effing power for all fields that he makes this look comfortable as it does, going all the way to the wall to drive in Lindor. And then we saw him pull a single, which is that second highlight I'm showing you right now. Just brilliant work from Juan Soto so far this season when he has yet to even truly get in a groove. Thank you so much, Dead Talk Live in the chat. I appreciate that. This were Francisco Lindor's line that we saw at that April 7th game against the Cincinnati Reds. For context, a .097 batting average, a 125 on base percentage, and a 278 slug. Francisco Lindor is off to a tremendously better pace right now with over 240 average and over 600 OPS. That shows you that unlike last year, Lindor is fairly locked in to begin the season, and this was a great step for him this season, as it was the case with Juan Soto too. 2 for 3 day for Soto. It was also a multi-hit game for our guy in the polar bear and Pete Alonso that continues to, again, tear the cover off the ball, but we're going to get more to Pete here later into this breakdown. So let's go ahead and hop back and break down all the latest in this key 2-0 win for the Amazons. Oh, it was good power from Soto. And again, if the ball wasn't dying the way that it was, I think Soto hits that one opposite field all the way out of here. Maybe that's just me, but I really think that would have been the case in the end. Because as we get through the 5 innings, everybody, that does it. So we reached the 6th inning. Danny Young comes in the 6th inning, and like each and every one of you, I too am shaking my boots. I'm thinking Danny Young in a 1-run ball game, and enlighten me as to why this would make sense. Well, thankfully, Carlos Mendoza proved exactly why it made sense, because after giving up an infield single to Stowers, in which it was bobbled there that we saw by Acuna, it was a pitch that just hit off the plate. It was kind of bizarre, a chopper that Acuna couldn't handle. Vientos couldn't handle a ball earlier too. That led to an infield single that really wasn't his fault, and Vientos got on base 3 times today, all via walks. That's fantastic. And Mark has had a hit the past couple games too, so I know that he hasn't hit exactly how we would have liked so far this year, but I'm not nearly as concerned as some fans made it out to be from that piss poor series that we saw against Miami in Miami. I think Vientos is going to be just fine. He just needs to continue to slowly build himself up the way that we're seeing other guys do it when they have a fairly slow start to the season. But as we saw in the 6th inning, Danny Young gives up the infield single to Stowers. Then after, we would see Lopez get on with a fielder's choice. Bride would strike out looking on what was a fantastic frame job there by Hayden Sanger, and then they get a quick out thereafter to do it. So shout out to Danny Young. Talk about Bulldog. I have critiqued this guy plenty, and I have advocated for Danny Young to be the first Mets DFA candidate as soon as they call up someone like, whether it's Danilo Nunez, Paul Blackburn, or what have you. But if Danny Young is going to come out and give me solid innings, not complaining. I just don't feel nearly as comfortable with Danny as I do with other options the Mets can consider out of their bullpen for obvious reasons. But as we go on from there, everybody, and the bottom of 6, Vientos would get on with a walk. Go figure. The Mets don't do anything beyond that, however, which then leads us to the 7th inning. And in the 7th, Jose Butto comes in, and Butto then we see gives up a 1-out single to Myers. Acuna bobbled the ball. That's what we're referring to. Myers then is tagged out at first base, and what was a tremendous turn by Jose Butto. Butto with a quick turn, Alonso with a tag on the ass, and bam, he's out of here. And then, folks, we have shortly after that, Paulie with a strikeout, then would end it right after the fact, and it was a fastball up. Gorgeous strikeout by Jose Butto. That had me the most amped up this entire ballgame. That was honestly my entire favorite sequence out of everything that transpired in this ballgame. And the Mets had some really good double play turns, and they had some key hits, but from going from the tag out at first to then right after the strikeouts to end the inning, that was some Bulldog stuff by Jose Butto. So shout out to him for doing exactly that. In the 7th, the Miami Marlins are thick-headed and thinking, you know what? Let's go ahead and let's bring in a lefty to face Juan Soto. Because surely a lefty specialist against Juan Soto is going to get him out. As if Juan Soto can't tear the cover off the ball against lefties just as well as he does righties. And lo and behold, just like what I was saying in our watch party and live on playback, I said, let's see how this plays out for Miami. I don't think it's going to end well. And what does Soto do? He turns on one. Why? Because Juan Soto turns on pitches inside better than basically anyone in the game today. He's up there at the top of the list. Soto rips himself a single that we see. Alonso then gets on with a 2-out double, a 114-mile-per-hour double. And then Nimmo, unfortunately, again with runners in scoring position, Brandon Nimmo had endless opportunity in this matchup, and he was never able to drive them in. Nimmo flies out, and that ends it for the inning, which then leads us to the 8th inning, everybody. So what transpires in the 8th inning between the Mets and the Marlins? It's the following. We would see Liam Hicks would ground out there right away to Acuna. Xavier Edwards gets on for what feels like the 4th time tonight with a walk. Kyle Stowers that we would see strike out, and what was a huge strikeout there. And Otto Lopez grounds out. So shout out to Jose Butto for giving the Mets 2+ innings of dominant work today, and Jose Butto was absolutely brilliant, folks. If we take a look at the butt himself and his 6-pitch mix that he threw tonight, or 5-pitch mix, I should say, at least, he had the 4-seam fastball working 36% of the time, topping out 95, sitting 94, sinker 23% of the time, topping out 94, sitting right around 94, slider 14% of the time, topping out 86, sitting right around 86, changeup 14% of the time, topping out 87, sitting right around 86, and the sweeper at 14% of the time, topping out at 82 and sitting right around 81. So Jose Butto, a much better outing than I feel like what we saw his last couple, where, you know, he worked good for an inning, and then when he goes out there for the second, he just doesn't look the same. Butto got better as the game went on, and that's a step in the right direction, because both Jose Butto and Danny Young have been the biggest question marks out of this bullpen to begin the regular season because of how good the bullpen has been to this point. It's not as much a slight on Danny Young and Jose Butto as it is a reality. Everyone has been firing on all full cylinders for the most part, with the exception of guys like Butto and Young. But great inning of work there from him, which then leads us to the bottom of the 8th. And what does my guy in Mark Vientos do? Mark gets on with a walk, again, like the dog that he is. Then we see Jose Siri come in as a pinch runner for Mark Vientos, and this is where things get all that much more fun. Winker would unfortunately strike out swinging, but Jose Siri, as one would expect, slides into second base with ease, and we have ourselves our runner in scoring position with that stolen bag. Siri's 2nd stolen bag of the year. Who drives him in? His fellow center fielder that he's splitting time with this year, and Tyrone Taylor, TT as we love to call him, rips himself his 2nd hit of the game. This time drives in a run. Siri comes in with a gorgeous slide there at home, and the Mets have themselves a 2-0 lead. Luisangel Acuna would ground out to almost end things, but Senga would certainly end things thereafter with a line out, which then leads us to the top of the 9th. Brett Beatty comes in to replace that we would see there handling third base with Vientos out. Ryan Stanek comes in, and Stanek gets a quick fly out on Jonah Bride. He gets a huge called strike 3 on Eric Wageman, and then he gets a key fly out on Griffin Conine, and that does it for the ball game. Ryan Stanek works a gorgeous inning of work. This entire Mets bullpen was nails, and this Mets bullpen that entered today's game with 35 innings pitched and 5 earned runs allowed this year have now made things that much better. We are now at 39 innings of 5 earned run baseball, folks. That is disgustingly good. 39 innings of just 5 earned runs is how nails this Mets bullpen has been to begin the year. If you guys haven't already, continue to smash that like and subscribe on as your first chime in, as we're breaking down all the latest in Mets land and their key 2-0 victory tonight against the Miami Marlins to kickstart what is now 5 straight series, not series, I wish, and hopefully we get 5 straight series victories, but 5 straight individual wins for the Mets that goes all the way back to their series finale in Miami over the past week. And then they go out and sweep the Toronto Blue Jays, and I guess Toronto was like, you know what, we got swept by the Mets. That's the last straw. We need to lock down our guy Vladimir Guerrero Jr. long-term, or we're going to have big problems, and that's what they did this past night that I broke down in a video and in a Bleacher Report segment earlier today for you guys to check out. Bear with me 1 second. My camera's being a schmuck and will not focus the way that I want it to, so let's see if it will here in 1 more second. Hold on. Here's some Wardy ASMR, everybody. Apologies if you see the blackheads. Hold on. There we go. For whatever reason, it just likes to get... Wait. You're still kind of out of focus. Okay, there we go. That looks better. Okay, not too shabby. Got to trim up the beard a little bit. But besides that, we're doing all right here. We're doing all right. Same way we're doing all right with our amazing sponsor at SeatGeek. If you guys haven't already, please make sure you check out SeatGeek by using our amazing promo code WardyNYM, link down below with a hyperlink. So if you click on it right away and you already have the SeatGeek app downloaded, it's going to say, bam, 10% off your next purchase was added thanks to your guy Wardy here. So whether you want to attend Mets games over the next couple days, whether you want to attend games later on this season, whether you want to go to comedy shows, whether you want to go to concerts, whatever your heart desires in the ticketing space, SeatGeek has you covered, everybody. Please make sure to check them out if you haven't already. WardyNYM is the code, link down below, and it really helps out the platform. And that way you guys can utilize that 10% off up to $20 for whatever ticketing purchase that you have in the near future. It doesn't need to be your first purchase. It just needs to be whatever purchase you have upcoming next. It's that easy, that simple. SeatGeek, WardyNYM down below. Thank you guys for that. David says you have a booger. What are we talking about here? Hello, Wardy's forehead, says Xavier. That's funny. Let's see. Please, let's see. The man bird. Let's see here. Happy to have you in here, brother. Hope all is well. Let's see. The pitching has been unbelievably excellent. Now, I'm going to double check right now to make sure that I didn't miss any key pitching stat that I want to share, because there is one on the bullpen that I did want to get to. And let's see here. Mets. Look this up for a second. Let's see if this is out or not. Yeah, I have yet to find the official Mets bullpen ERA. Again, it was like 1.29 or 1.21, one of the two to start today. And now they had 4 more scoreless innings. So we're at 39 total innings of 5 earned runs. If someone can do the math, that is what the ERA is. Still, it's the league best. The Mets throughout the first 2 weeks of the season, essentially, have themselves the best team ERA and bullpen ERA in the game. Not too shabby. And as we broke down in a video earlier today, which I really implore you guys to check out further, highly suggested it mainly because we went into so many different topics, not only key prospect updates, but also we got into what is happening with the Mets bullpen, what has looked so well for them, getting into the numbers as well as the production from the rotation. But again, Kodai Senga not giving us length, but certainly giving us a solid outing. I look like Danny Young? That feels like an insult, JD. That really does. A lot of people used to say I looked like Michael Conforto when he was on the team, and I appreciated that because regardless on how good or bad Conforto was as a Met, he was my favorite player on this team for a good stretch of time. Watch our ERA after playing good teams. We'll watch it, but we also have played the Houston Astros, so let's not act like we played all bad teams. And this isn't a complete slate on the Blue Jays, but I know Toronto's not as good of a team as the Astros. I don't expect them to be, per se, this season. We'll have to see it to believe it. But yeah, I know. Obviously, the pitching is going to fluctuate. They're going to have some games where they look absolutely horrendous this year. That goes without saying, like any other team in the 162. Let's see. Starters need to go deeper. Our bullpen will eventually collapse. I disagree on the collapse front, and here's why. The Mets have an abundance of arms stored in AAA right now that are going to help to make sure that they don't get too fatigued like they were at the start of last season. I would agree more if I didn't have the same level of faith and confidence and 2 to 3 immediate arms coming back from injury or just chilling in AAA right now that could be called up with a guy like either Huascar Brosban, Max Kranick, or whoever else still has one minor league option left for the Mets to consider maybe sending down for a period of time if they had that guy go 3 strong innings for them, say the day prior. Not that I want to see anyone sent down. I just realized that, as David Stern said it himself brilliantly today, that we know that the ebbs and flows of the 162 mean that the bullpen will be ever changing. So you want to take advantage of the flexibility that you have, especially maximize that so that way that you can give guys proper opportunity and really see what you have with certain guys that maybe aren't in the bullpen right now, i.e. Danilo Nunez, Paul Blackburn in a swingman role where I think he could thrive like a Trevor Williams type, whether that's a Tyler Zuber who's exciting, has upside, Rico Garcia, same applies, Genesis Cabrera to a certain degree as lefty option who I think would be a solid option if it won't be Danny Yan, and the list goes on from there. Let's see. Alonso with the Ike Davis rail catch, 100%. And I loved seeing Alonso go out and make that snag. Zelda, how you doing? Let's see in the chat, everybody. Let me go up here just for a second. Love Siri hustles energy guy. Oh, yeah. Siri always is hustling his tail off. That's exactly what he does. And Siri's a dog. And while Jose Siri hasn't done a crazy amount of things this year, it's the elements that he brings with the all-around talent is what makes him enticing. Because, yes, Jose Siri has had a worse start to the year average-wise than anyone else in the Mets lineup. He's batting .059 this year with .318 OPS. Tyrone Taylor's .222 with a .444 OPS. We see the Mets out hit Miami today 9-7. They had an expected batting average of 273 to the opponent expected batting average there of 226, and they had things cooking and working in their favor, everybody. And we're going to get into our latest farm report as well as other key topics regarding the Mets, either in a video that'll drop for you guys in the AM or an absolute latest. It'll be a video that's paired in a conversation a day from now, as we did this past day, recapping the past like 48 hours in the minor leagues. And actually, I just realized I don't got to talk about the minor leagues because no minor league games happen today, because in the minor leagues they don't play games on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. So there shouldn't actually be any prospect report to get into to recap. So disregard that. That's completely irrelevant now. A couple more things to share with you guys before we get out of here. And the Mets have a 1.72 ERA, best in baseball. I know, it's amazing. Steven, my man, Wardy, how are you, brother? Thank you so much for chiming in. Let's see, guys. Can you imagine if we... Oh, I've imagined plenty on landing Sandy Alcantara. That's why I've been beating that drum and telling you guys that I am absolutely loving the idea of Sandy coming to the Mets. I know Mets players would love it themselves, whether it's his former teammate Starling Marte during his small stint in Miami, whether it's Juan Soto, his fellow countryman there of the Dominican Republic, or if it's a Francisco Lindor, who's a heavy advocate as well, knowing how much of an ace caliber starter he is. Sign me the hell up. I would love nothing more than a Sandy Alcantara acquisition here to break down on the platform and see his first start in a Mets uniform and go on from there. That'd be electric. And listen, if Jesus Luzardo can get traded to the Philadelphia Phillies, then Sandy can get traded to the Mets. Those in-season trades can happen, and those in-division trades can certainly happen too. The Budo pickoff was unbelievably clutch. That was one of my favorite moments of the entire ball game. Just nice little smack, and that reminded me, if you guys know the Key and Peele skits of the slap ass episode, where, you know, again, they're in the locker room, all baseball players, and one of the two between Key and Peele, because I always flip-flop who's who. Let me actually think for a second. It's Jordan Peele, because, wait. Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele, because Jordan Peele is the one who's directed and was a part of Get Out and a lot of the other movies, if I'm not mistaken. So it was Jordan's character that was acting like a Spanish baseball player and couldn't help himself from slapping everyone's ass. No matter what, regardless on how good, bad they perform, what happened, they could go and just walk past him, and it has to happen. And it became very uncomfortable fast, but it's a funny skit if you guys have seen it, because that was the first thing that my stupid self thought of when I saw the tag made by Alonso. It was just like right away. It was like from a decade ago. I remember that skit happening like it was yesterday. But guys, the Mets are off to a really good start this season, and the best part of it all is that they have done it without even having a lot of success for the most part on the offensive end, right? You've had a lot of guys underperform so far this year. You've had a lot of guys not really getting a groove. Your rotation hasn't went deep at all for you. The Mets have yet to have a starter go 6 strong innings or so for them, and it hasn't been their demise, at least to this point, which is very exciting. So what does this mean, everybody? Is that the boys are 7-3 without even clicking on all full cylinders yet. Not even close to clicking on all full cylinders. Vladdy failed his physical. You wish. I don't think it's going to fail. I think everything's fine there. I think the Toronto Blue Jays continue to do their periodic checks and physicals with their players like any other team in Major League Baseball. But that was a good one. But pretty happy with the turnout for the Mets so far, and more so happy with the fact that they're showing up at Citi Field. Such a stark contrast from a year ago this time, where the Mets couldn't hit a lick at all at home, but they couldn't get the pitching because it wasn't quality enough to give them consistent wins either. The Mets had some absolutely disgustingly brutal games in April with the bad weather, but also just them not performing. And now we're seeing that continued resilience that carried over from large parts of the summer last year heading into postseason play. And what I mean by that is it's a resilience, it's the never say die mentality. It's that even though that, yes, you had a 1-0 lead, you're making sure that you're adding at least a level of insurance the way that the Mets were able to do with Tyrone Taylor and Jose Siri, which was some brilliant decision-making by Carlos Mendoza to pinch run for Mark Vientos there. And shout again to Marky Mark for being the man to go out there and give us 3 quality walks today, with that third walk being that key run scored. Let's see. What are these Mets doing? How are they so damn good? Here's the thing. I don't necessarily know if it's as much about them being so damn good as it is things that we expected to click to a degree on the pitching end are clicking, but greatly so far. And offensively, there's still so much to be had. Like, I don't think you guys truly understand just how much of a great peak the Mets are going to hit this year, because this is nowhere close. This is just, honestly, Solid baseball, just rock solid pitching and defensive baseball that are helping carry the Mets to these wins. They're also facing teams that are helping. When you face the Miami Marlins in 2 series in the first 4 series of the year, you're never going to complain about that, but you got to make sure you win every single series you play this Miami Marlins team. D-Mac with a $2 haul says, one half game out first, go Braves, says D-Mac. We're not doing any type of nonsense when it comes to standing rooting right now, D-Mac. Stop it. Stop it. Like, please. I don't even sniff the idea of looking at standings. And if you guys ever see me post about standings on X or on Insta, it's just because I know that it's a conversation starter and maybe it's going to ruffle some feathers. Maybe I'm going to piss off opposing fan bases. But I'm never going out of my way to look at the damn standings here in the month of April. You guys can go ahead and do that. But if last year proved anything to me, it's how much I need to carry on with the season for the marathon and not the sprint that is. I feel like I've learned so much as a baseball fan, as a creator over the past 5 years since starting to cover the Mets. My emotions are still readily tagged with the team, but they have been heavily suppressed on how things start in the early goings of the season versus what happens throughout the course of the 162. I'm not buying into the nonsense of, oh, this is the end all be all here in the month of April or May. Kick rocks, buddy. We still have how many more months of baseball to go? And that's regardless of what the Mets do or don't do. And right now, they're off to a 7-3 start, which is absolutely fantastic. Pissing off opposing fan bases is tight, says Don in the chat. I agree. It's awesome. It's amazing when you have, like, say, for example, Braves fans, Phillies fans, Yankees fans all mad, and they're mad because you're playing well and there's nothing that they can do about it. That is the best feeling as a fan of your favorite team. When everything goes right, everyone's talking shit on you. It's because you're becoming the talk of the town, and it's because you're playing good baseball. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that continues, or lack thereof, throughout the course of the 162, everybody. But I do want to make sure I don't miss anything. There is one keynote I did want to say, which is the following. And actually, you know, let me just show you guys instead of talking about it. And folks, help us get a 200 plus likes in the live show right now. We have roughly 400 people watching live and only just over 100 likes. Help us get a 200 plus likes. It really does mean a lot, everybody. And if you're watching on replay, help us get a 300 at some point watching live on replay. It would really mean a lot. And thank you guys again for doing exactly that. But let me show you guys something from earlier that I thought was important to share. Mets look awesome, and I hate it as a Braves fan. Well, PK, I commend you for being a dog coming in here, you know, taking it to the chin. I know Atlanta's been absolutely god-awful to begin the season, but I also know that's the beginning of the season. So if there's anything you could take away from a Mets fan point of view, you know, never say die. You didn't hear no bell yet. You got a lot of games to be had. I will not be shocked if the Braves go on a run and either crack playoffs and prove everyone wrong, be the first team in history to do that from how they started the year, or get really close. And I think they're going to be grinding it out all until the very end this year. I would be beyond shocked if the Braves are not a playoff caliber team throughout the course of the season. They're just off to such a bad start, and Jerks and Profar screwed them. And I did a video on Jerks and Profar that my Braves fans especially can check out on how he is the MLB's newest fraud. Go to WardyNYM, check it out, everybody. The video dropped earlier today. This is what I want to show you. This is what I want to show you guys. Here you go. As you guys can see from this graphic that I posted earlier today, David Stearns had his presser today that we saw pregame, and he was talking about praising the bullpen. Got into a bit there on certain positions for the Mets, where things stand for guys like McNeil and Alvarez, which they're actually going to be going to Port St. Lucie because of how shitty the weather's been. Pardon my French. They're at Citi Field the past number of days. They haven't been able to get the true groundwork that they wanted, so they're going to send them back to sunny Port St. Lucie for a little bit to get more work in, and then they will begin their rehab process from there. But David Stearns was asked by Howie Rose earlier today in the media scrum if you would like to see one of Brett Baty or Luis Angel Acuna potentially run away with second base prior to McNeil returning. And David's response was, and I quote, "I'd love to see one of them step up and do exactly that." So I'm encouraged by the fact that Stearns made that statement, which is telling that he would like to see one of the kids go out and run with it. Him and I both. This is not a slight on Jeff McNeil, as it is a reality in the fact that McNeil feels like a guy that may find himself boxed out eventually by this team just because of how he carries himself as a player, the type of player that he is, and how he gels or lack thereof with this team. I don't necessarily know how the fit's going to be at second base this season, but at the same time, if the Mets don't get stability from one of Beatty or Acuna, that is going to be what happens next. Is they're going to go back to Jeff, and if Jeff plays well, then so be it. And then we're going to just ride with Jeff for the foreseeable future, just like what we did with Jose Iglesias last year in large part when he was out, especially with injury, and you go on from there. So I'm really interested to see how things continue to evolve. Whipwreck Beatty, his struggles. Luis Angel Acuna is looking tremendous as ever with the defensive play, everybody. And one final stat I did want to throw out to each and every one of you is the fact that, again, the Mets didn't hit for shit in this game. They were 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position and left 10 on base. They had no business. They had no business doing it. They had no business winning this ball game. But just like they had no business doing anything against Miami, Pete Alonso hit the game-time bomb dead center in Miami, 4-4 tie. They win in extras. They secure that huge series win. And then we saw what they did again against Toronto as well. Chris Bassett carves for roughly 7 innings. Those idiots brought in the bullpen, and the Mets absolutely cooked. And the rest is history from there. Jesse Winker, love him to death. But guys and gals, that is going to do it for our latest New York Metropolitan postgame show. The Mets go out. Lindor records 3 hits. Soto has himself an RBI opposite field double. Alonso rips a double. Tyrone Taylor drives in Jose Siri. And Kodai Senga goes 5 shutty for a nice, comfortable 2-0 victory as the Mets win their 5th straight game at Citi Field. Like I said, guys, I will not be at Citi Field until earliest Wednesday now, as I will not be attending tomorrow's game most likely. But I appreciate everyone that is going out of their way to try to see me at the game Wednesday. I hope to see you guys there. I'll be roaming around the stadium pregame, depending on what I'll be setting up and doing. I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing anything media access-wise or not, so we'll be on the lookout for that. And then I'll be hanging around the game. I won't be solely in the club. I'm going to be in the Cadillac Club, so I will be there for a good chunk of the game, but I won't be there the entire time. And I'll even tweet out, hey, guys, I'm going to go, say, to the center field concourse for the 7th inning or what have you, if you guys want to go and hang out and chop it up with me for a half inning to an inning, something along those lines. So cannot wait to be at Citi Field this week, everybody. Unfortunately, won't be there tomorrow, but anyone attending the 410 game, have an absolute blast. Let's go and secure that series victory, folks. And I wish you all a fantastic rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this. Thank you guys again. As always, no matter what, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out. Have a great one, folks.